Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Vishnu Varathan, Head of Economics and Strategy at Mizuho Bank in Singapore. Now, Vishnu, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me. Always a great way to start the week with you.
Now, Vishnu, hope you had a good weekend. We've got quite a lot of things to unpack in terms of what happened on Friday and then over the weekend. But before we get your insights, let's first take a look at how crypto markets are performing. And then we will come back and take a look at how regional markets are performing. Now, in terms of crypto markets, Bitcoin has had a lot of price action over the weekend. It's up now to 49,049 cents. It's up 0.19%. Ethereum is at 4,170.49. It is up 0.35%. Now, if we look at regional stock markets, we will start with the SGX, which is at 3,126.36. It's up 0.79%. Now, looking across to other markets in the region, and let me just bring that up on the screen. We've got the KLCI, which is at 1,490.52. It's up 0.75%. It's down 0.75%. Shanghai is at 3,619.53. It's up 0.34%. The ASX is at 7,535.4. It's down 0.11%. The Nikkei is at 27,951.5. It's down 0.28%. The Hang Seng is down 1.2% at 23,481. And rounding up the market, market information, we've got the Kospi, which is at 2,979.29. It is up 0.37%. Vishnu, what's your view on how markets have performed this morning?
But it appears that markets are in a bit of a flux. On one hand, markets are still very cautious and nervous. They are looking at risks that are continuing to loom overhead, things like the Omicron risk. You also have got China risks, whether it is in the form of the property market, where Evergrande has come up again as a risk factor. And you also have got markets generally looking even more skittish, given the lack of clarity around what's going to happen, and so much more inclined to take profits. On the other hand, you also have got good US data. You've got ISM services at a new record. You've got a rather mixed non-farm payroll, weak in the headline, but strong in terms of how unemployment has dropped, 0.4 percentage points, and pointing towards a strong US that will allow the Fed to hike rates. So the Fed rate hike is the
hard. I'm going to stop you then and just highlight the numbers so that our audience has an indication of the numbers. The non-farm payroll number came in at 210,000 last month, which came out on Friday, which was below, however, the consensus of economists was 573,000. So about half of that. But what you're saying is the unemployment number then made up for the fact that the non-farm number was weaker than expected.
Right, because unemployment fell from 4.6% to 4.2%. And that reduction was a lot more than anticipated by markets. Also, I think in the details, they think that a parallel survey of households showed employment's growing much stronger. So I think they are putting this down to some seasonal adjustments and things like that, but are alluding to the fact that the numbers are, in absolute terms, strong, and certainly strong enough for the Fed to go ahead with the plan. And I think that's where the indecision sets in, whether the Fed having the confidence to move ahead, speed up taper, and bring hikes forward to middle of 2022 is good or bad news. And much of that may hinge on factors like China and Omicron, for which I think we're still waiting for the verdict on that. And we've got another two weeks or so to go before we get any clarity. But the FOMC is ahead of that.
Now, so one of the things, however, that's happened over the weekend is the following. We've had the tech sell-off, and we've also had a sharp correction with cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin obviously dropping from the 60 plus thousand now to below 50,000. What's your view on these scenarios? Because the tech sell-off has been fairly significant.
Yeah, I think, and we can bring this back to what markets are watching for this week. I think one of the things they're watching for is US CPI numbers. They expect CPI to accelerate further. And the knee-jerk reaction to whenever CPI goes much higher is a sell-off in tech because of the Fed's tightening being seen as a reason for markets to take risk off the table. So they're going to take off their bets on risk. And I think in a similar vein, whether you're looking at tech or you're looking at cryptocurrencies, the fact that they are zero yielding and the bets are all on future gains means that markets get a little bit more nervous about things like that. At the in the context of higher rates coming into the scenario. So for those reasons, and also partly year-end factors, taking risk off the table seems a bit more of a compelling trade now. And one way we've noticed this is last week, some of the dip buying didn't seem to work. Early in the year, I think the mantra was whenever there's a dip, buy the dip. Whereas given that it didn't seem to work last week, I think also has what markets a bit nervous.
And Vishnu, now we are in the beginning of the week. What are you looking for in terms of events and data points that will move markets? Even though obviously we are in December right now.
No, that's a good point.
Vishnu, we have lost you from our feed.
In December.
Sorry, Vishnu, we lost you slightly.
Hi, Brian. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
No, I think this was a deliberate tech ploy to let me gather my thoughts. So here's what we have to look up for the week. I think we need to look up for the US CPI numbers. That's going to have a huge bearing on how markets get a handle on the FOMC decision that's coming up the middle of next week, not this week. So US CPI numbers is one. We also want to get a look at the kind of headlines coming out of China. And I think one thing and an early Christmas present that markets may be waiting for is a triple R cut from China, given that Premier Li Keqiang has hinted at that. So these two things I think are going to be the big headlines that markets will be looking for, apart from any other headlines on Omicron and or Evergrande. So these are perhaps going to hog the airwaves for this week.
Now, Vishnu, as always, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
My pleasure, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Vishnu Varathan, Head of Economics and Strategy at Mizuho Bank, on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. Please watch this video and podcast on our various social media platforms, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.